Every year, American farmers plow past things that should not be there. A serpent the length of 4 football fields, shaped by people who left no name. A city that held more people than London, gone without a single written word. Mines emptied of copper 3,000 years before Columbus ever saw the coast. None of this is folklore. Every one of these sits on a map, in a state you can drive to this weekend, and not one of them has an explanation that everybody accepts. In southern Ohio, a ridge above Brush Creek carries a snake made of earth. 1,400 feet from tail to jaw, coiled at one end, mouth open at the other. Standing on it, you would call it a low ridge of grass. From the air, it is unmistakable. The head points at the exact spot where the sun sets on the summer solstice, and the curves of the body line up with the moon. Somebody understood the sky well enough to bet a year of labor on it. Then comes the problem. There is nothing inside it. No burials, no tools, no pottery, nothing that can be dated. Soil samples have given 2 answers, 300 years before Christ and 1070 after. Those are more than 1,000 years apart, and serious archaeologists defend both. And the mound is lying on top of something stranger. The bedrock underneath is shattered in a circle 5 miles across, the scar of an impact around 300 million years old. Nobody knows if the builders could tell. Nobody knows why a snake. In northeast Louisiana, 6 earthen ridges curve in half circles around an open plaza, and at the western edge, a mound rises 70 feet. Poverty Point. Roughly 1,700 years before Christ, which makes it older than the Colosseum by almost 2,000 years. Every basket of that soil was carried on somebody's shoulders. Then geologists looked at the layers inside the big mound and found something they did not expect. No rain lines, no weathered surfaces, no pauses at all. That mound went up in a single push, in a matter of weeks, not generations. 8 million work hours by one estimate, all at once. And the people who did it were hunter-gatherers. No farming, no herds, no stored grain. The textbook order says agriculture comes first, then a food surplus, then monuments. Poverty Point was built by people who skipped the first 2 steps, and nobody has explained how they fed the crowd that raised it. 8 miles from downtown St. Louis stands the largest earthen structure in the Americas. 100 feet tall, and its base covers more ground than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Around the year 1100, the city underneath it held maybe 20,000 people, more than London had at the same moment. There were plazas, neighborhoods, a ring of red cedar posts that tracked the sunrise through the year. Under one mound, archaeologists found a man laid out on 20,000 shell beads, arranged in the shape of a falcon, and around him pits of young women, buried more than 50 at a time. Within 250 years, the whole city was empty. No burn layer from an invasion, no mass grave from a plague, no written record of any kind, because these people did not write. We do not even know what they called themselves. Cahokia is the name of a tribe that moved into the empty valley centuries after everyone had gone. On the Keweenaw Peninsula in Michigan, and on Isle Royal out in the lake, the ground is punched with old pits. Thousands of them. Some are shallow scrapes, some go down 20 feet into solid rock. Beside them lie hammerstones by the ton, rounded beach cobbles carried up from the shore and used until they broke. The dates run back 5,000 years, which makes this some of the oldest metalwork anywhere on Earth. Nobody disputes that the mining happened. The argument is about arithmetic. Estimates of how much copper came out of that ground run into the thousands of tons, and the knives, awls and spear points recovered from the whole Great Lakes region account for a small fraction of it. The rest is not in any museum, any burial, or any trash heap that has been dug. And then, around 1,000 years before Christ, the mining stops. Not slowly. Everywhere at roughly the same time, and nobody picked it up again for 3,000 years. 30 acres of woods in Salem, New Hampshire, hold a warren of stone chambers with slab roofs, low tunnels, and drainage that still works. At the center sits a granite table weighing 4.5 tons, with a channel carved around its rim that runs to a spout at one corner. Around the perimeter, standing stones mark the sunsets of the solstices and the equinoxes accurately enough to use as a calendar. Charcoal pulled from the site has come back at around 4,000 years old. The official explanation is a farmer named Jonathan Patty, who lived on the land in the 1800s, and the story goes, built the chambers as root cellars, with later owners shuffling the stones around for tourists. Maybe. Root cellars do not usually need an astronomer, and a farm from the 1800s does not usually sit on charcoal from 2,000 years before Christ. 1898, near Kensington, Minnesota. A Swedish immigrant named Olof Oman is clearing land and hits something under an aspen. 200 pounds of stone, wrapped in the roots, carved on 2 faces with runes. Translated, it reads like a report. 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians on a journey west. A camp by 2 rocky islands. 10 men found red with blood and dead. The date carved into the stone is 1362, 130 years before Columbus sailed. Linguists called it a forgery almost immediately, pointing at runes that looked too modern. Then, decades later, some of those same odd runes turned up in genuine medieval documents in Sweden. A geologist studied the weathering inside the carved grooves and argued it needed far longer than a few years to form. Oman died insisting he never carved it, and the tree the stone came out of was decades old, its roots grown tight around the slab. Somebody would have had to bury it before that tree was planted. 6 sites, 1 pattern. In every case, the object is real, mapped, measurable, and open to visitors. What is missing is the paperwork. No names, no builders, no reason written down anywhere, and in 4 of the 6, no agreement on how old it even is. We tell ourselves the deep mysteries are somewhere far away, in Egypt or Peru or under the ocean. They are not. They are in Ohio, in Louisiana, in Illinois, in Michigan, in New Hampshire, in Minnesota, under corn and pine and parking lots, and most people drive right past them. Follow forgotten origins,